Yeah, lots to cover, lots to talk about. We're coming off the All Star Game. It was a pitcher's duel, a couple of big hits along the way. I thought it was really fun. Before we go to the topics there in the notebook, I just want to mention something. I watched the thing. You watch Shohei Ohtani hit the 3-run home run. You see him run the bases, throwing his hands up in the air. There's a joy to the way he plays the game.
Right.
I thought that was so cool as a pronouncement, how much fun. And I think a lot of these guys during the courses of the interviews in the Midsummer Night's Classic said, hey, we're having a lot of fun with the guys we compete against, we don't necessarily get to hang with. And Ohtani just kind of covered it all. He's flapping his arms in the air, rounding second base, going to third base, and pump fist him. That was cool. Felt so good for Jerks and Profar. Career best season. What a neat experience for a guy that was unemployed back in December and January. And how about the kid? You think Jackson Merrill was amped? First pitch, line drive. First pitch, next at bat, infield hit. He saw two pitches. He swung at two pitches. He was obviously amped. And the best feeling, aside from Ohtani, was Robert Suarez. Think about the road he has traveled to become the Padres closer and to become an all-star. Rejected and released Mexican League, went abroad to Japan, had to reinvent himself, became a relief pitcher. Padres saw something special. He's on the mound, throwing gas, throwing heat, striking out the only two batters he faced, and retired. That's a cool story about a self-made man. So just off the top, that was my impression of what I saw the All-Star Game.
Yeah, I mean, the whole Profar thing is great, especially him with his kid that was there with him. Merrill, I mean, he smoked that ball to left, that line drive. Good for him. I think he's like the fourth youngest player in Major League history to have a base hit in an All-Star game. I mean, he's got a great future.
And the Suarez thing, isn't that neat?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, that guy deserves everything he's getting right now, all the accolades, because he had to take the long road.
So you don't miss Josh Hader?
No, not at all. Not at all. Yeah, Houston, you can keep him.
Okay, let's go to topics on the table. We're going to go a lot of different directions here. Trade deadline 2 weeks out. Burning question, what price the Padres going to pay? We've talked a bit about names on the trade block right now, and the one that I think they should pursue, though it's in the division, is the Colorado Rockies and Cal Quantrill. This morning, two new names surfaced. Evidently, Patrick Corbin, journeyman left-hander, who's pitched in a wretched situation in Washington, yet is pretty competitive. What do you throw, 7 shutout innings against the Padres a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, he did.
Patrick Corbin is out there. And a new name, it looks like Texas is going to start selling off players because they've had such a bad season with injuries. Nathan Eovaldi. Outside of Quantrill, I think Eovaldi is probably the most quality starter that could be out there. Now, that being said, you've also got a situation where other teams, a.k.a. the Dodgers, if they find out that Eovaldi's available, they might make a bid. So the Padres, are they going to be the first ones to jump in the water and make a deal? Are they going to be willing to pay the price or overpay to maybe get Quantrill in Colorado or get Eovaldi? Sorry, I don't want Sean Manaea. I don't know whether Zach Eflin in Tampa Bay is totally healthy. They're unwilling to pay a 4-for-1 price to get Garrett Crochet from the White Sox. So 2 weeks out, I'm focused on the Rockies right-hander, or maybe the name just surfaced on Thursday morning, Nathan Eovaldi. Reaction?
Eovaldi would be great, but I can't imagine that Texas would be in sell mode. I mean, they're the defending champs. I would think that ownership and the fans there are hoping to qualify for the playoffs somehow, some way.
But so many injuries, payroll is really high. I don't know how much more they can take on in terms of getting a quality acquisition. So that's topic one. Topic two, Robo Umps. This came as a bit of a surprise. Commissioner Rob Manfred, State of the League address, just sounds off about what baseball is thinking about. We know already in 2025, there will be use of computer strike zones on replay challenges on a ball or strike count. We think that baseball is going to give each manager 3 challenges per game on balls and strikes. However, Manfred just indicated during the State of the League address that they're going to experiment in the Cactus League and in the Grapefruit Circuit with the automated strike zone, with the Robo Ump in spring training games. They think they have the technology that makes it work. They've done it in the minor leagues. They say the technology on getting calls correct is within 1/100th of an inch on the black. Now, Major League Baseball, we're still talking about wicked movement of pitches, but evidently this Robo Ump thing will be experimented. Now, that being said, before they can rubber stamp it for approval, they got to negotiate with Tony Clark and the union, and there's probably going to be pushback on that because Tony Clark pushes on everything. And they have to negotiate with the Umpires Association because they're going to degrade the responsibility of the umpires, although Angel Hernandez is gone and the moving strike zone with him is gone. So do you like the experiment idea in spring training, or would you just rather just have the challenge system, not have a lot of interference with the games, and then leave the human element behind home plate without Angel Hernandez?
I used to, a long time ago, thought the human element was part of what made baseball special, but I was wrong. I want calls called accurately. So if they're going to transition for a year or two with a challenge system, that's okay. But they've got to get to the 100% robo ump, and you could still have an ump back there to handle subjective issues, call safe at the plate, that sort of thing. But let's just try to get to robo ump as quickly as we can because it's so frustrating. I can't imagine the players would object, but the umpires union will.
I keep hearing the players do object. I hear the players in the minor leagues at AAA ball who've experimented with this kind of object.
Why?
That's what I maintain because, as Manfred said, we're within 1/100th of an inch of perfection in terms of calling stuff in the black out the edge of the plate. Interesting robo ump experiment in the spring training. Challenge system for 2025. If this thing works, might have robo umps by 2026. Next topic, uniforms. Boys are blowback about whatever they were wearing. And those, I'm sorry, John, I know you like difference, but those suckers, they look like softball uniforms. I thought the All Star Game uniforms were awful. And there is a push led by Bryce Harper. Let me wear my colors, my home uniforms. Let those guys wear their road jerseys, the whites and the grays with our logos.
Yeah.
Quit trying to sell additional softball jerseys to the fans. I think there's going to be such pressure to push back on the uniforms. You and I, it's the only thing we've agreed on since we started this bloody podcast.
Yeah. Well, I love wearing your regular homes or away uniform is great. They look like old school barnstorming, uniforms. The blue ones in the National League were acceptable, but the American League ones look terrible. That red wasn't even like a real red.
I'm colorblind. I thought it was orange.
Yeah, it was something.
I'm sorry. It looked like a beer league softball uni. Out with those uniforms. Draft picks. The draft has been in place since, I think, 1965. I think Rick Monday was the first guy that was ever drafted by the Oakland Athletics. They banned teams from trading draft picks. This is about to change. Rob Manfred said in the State of the League address, we should allow teams to use all their resources to build a roster they want. I think this is going to get traction. I think they're going to allow teams to trade their draft picks going forward. It's going to be fascinating to see if that happens.
All the other sports do it, right? I mean, so I think I was always surprised that Major League Baseball held out on that for so long. Because remember the Will Myers trade for Trey Turner?
Yes.
They had to wait until he was, I think, 6 months or 12 months after he was drafted to be included in the deal. It just seemed weird.
The Olympics. You're going to have to tell me, because you're great with your cell phone looking at calendar dates and this calendar, that baseball is going to meet with the union, and they're going to talk extensively about the Olympics. They are going to talk about shutting down baseball in the middle of the 2028 season for the LA Olympics to allow, I think it's fascinating. It'd be a better version of the WBC because it'd be a mid-season when everybody's healthy. It could still be a super all-star game. Each pitcher might be limited to 1 or 2 innings. But they're talking about my guys, your guys, going to the Olympics in 2028. How long are they going to be off? Is it a week? Is it going to be 10 days? They're going to shut the rest of the league down? Interesting observation.
I like it. I like the idea. I just don't know what the WBC is going to do if the Olympics are once every 4 years. It kind of takes the wind out of the sail of the World Baseball Classic.
Networks. Commissioner praises the Padres. Rob Manfred talks about the fact that the Padres lead Major League Baseball. Do you know they're in first place? The Padres lead Major League Baseball 40,000 plus subscribers to the streaming service that baseball created when Bally Sports
Right
and the
on.
Diamond Sports Group fell apart. Now, of
Mhm.
course, they're only handling 3 teams this year. By next year, they hope to have 12. Manfred says they'd like to get as many as 20. They can't get all 30 because the Yankees and the Mets and the Red Sox and the Dodgers are refusing to give up their regional sports network packages. But if they could get 20, it'd be a rubber stamp thing. And it was interesting because while I was on vacation, I got to watch other teams that are under the MLB banner. I actually got to watch a Diamondbacks broadcast, and it looks exactly like the Padre broadcast with the same music coming in and out of the breaks and how they structure their
Mhm.
play-by-play guys, the color guys, and when do they go the person along the first baseline, aka Bob Scanlon. So they're going to grow the networks. Athletics. There is blowback. Do you know last week the average temperature in Sacramento, where the A's are going to play next season, at 7 p.m. for a whole week plus was 102. Oppressive.
Yes.
And of course, minor league ballpark, they're starting the renovations. Now there's blowback. Tony Clark says, I'm not sure we're signing off on this. My guys having to play in the putrid heat day after day after day for a whole season in Sacramento. Now, that being said, back in the day, the Astros used to play before the Astrodome was built in the heat, the humidity with the mosquitoes in Houston.
Mm.
And Texas Rangers played forever outdoors. Globe Life Stadium wasn't there back in the day. So it's going to be interesting to see that there's a lot of blowback about this Oakland A's situation. Manfred, vote of confidence, indicated that he believes John Fisher is going to come up with a $1.1 billion private financing he needs for his share to build the stadium. And the Athletics are holding a press conference next week to unveil the whole structure on this tract of land, I guess where the Tropicana Hotel used to be, and the whole business entity, aside from just the ballpark. Press conference, I think it might be as early as next Monday. So you sitting first base line, Sacramento, you crazy?
Oh, that's going to be just, yeah, like you say, oppressive. I've been up there in the summer. It's nuts. I mean, it's like the Oakland Orphans now. I mean, where are they going to land? If Tony Clark said we're not going to Sacramento, no ifs, ands, or buts, then what do they do? What are their options?
Well, there's always ways. There's always ways to negotiate because Clark has the right to veto his share of this. But I mean, there's absurd stuff. The Sacramento AAA team during last week's brutal heat up there,
Mhm.
I think it was 9 or 10 days in a row, it was 102 or worse at game time. They moved some games to 10 a.m. Now, I don't think baseball wants to be playing major league games at 10 a.m. because that impacts TV contracts
Mhm.
and all this other stuff. So was this thing well thought out? Well, I mean, you and I talked in the past, John, that they looked at Vegas, which is bloody hot. They looked at Reno in Vegas to kind of help promote Nevada's baseball team. Giants said, you're not coming here. So I'm not sure really where else they could go if this thing at such a late date gets hammered down because of the Players Association. So stay tuned for that. Now, there's a lot of topics on the table there, and I will ask baseball fan, Padre fan, to comment on the Padres. Which guy would you like to see them go get? I'm still a big Quantrill guy. I think the most fascinating one might be Corbin because I don't think the price would be very high. I don't know about Eovaldi if he's available, but I don't think you can get him for cheap. So if you're a Padre fan, jump on board. And you're a baseball fan, your reaction to Robo Umps and the spring training experiment, your reaction to the uniforms, and your reaction to the draft picks. We call this Fans Forum. So you're just joining us. John, how